Hey everybody, 9 months later, I've just noticed I hadn't posted anything for 9 whole months. That's quite a lot of time, and people are probably wondering, what happened to Sally, what happened to her, where's she been, where's she gone, what's she doing with this whole pandemic. Well, let me tell you. End of 2019, thought that was going to be the worst of it. I ended up having a PICC line infection, which was on this arm. And I was putting it off and putting it off and putting it off since I last posted. I was getting fevers, temperatures, not being able to have my TPN as a result. And then one of the nurses that comes in and does the dressing change weekly couldn't notice the infection signs and called up the hospital, got me in. I was in there for 2 weeks, kind of not really myself because I was like really weak, tired, hallucinating almost. I just didn't want to go into hospital, and but thankfully I did when I did. It has affected my breathing, my chest more than last time. So every time I get an infection, lung infection or like septicemia, it's affecting. I still struggle with the shortness of breath, and that's just me sitting down. They moved the PICC line that was in here. I think I've still got a little bit of the sign where the line was before. Get a bit brownish. And they moved it to this arm. It's got covered. But in the meantime, I keep getting all these sort of signs. I'm not sure it's showing that well. But I have bruise-like signs here. And that's been there for about a month and a half. Nothing heat-related or cold-related or whatever. It's just markings on the arm from my Reynolds. It's just decided to show that. A lot of people have asked me, what is that? Bruising? What is that? Have you fallen? Have you been hitten? Who's done that? And I'm like, no, it's just my Reynolds.
People think domestic violence.
Yeah, it's got to the stage where I've been asked, is it been a domestic violence sort of thing and should we step in? And I'm like, no, Reynolds, seriously, it's just my autoimmune. Don't worry about it. And they're like, stop making excuses. Like, I'm not making excuses, just, seriously. But anyway, that's happened. Yeah, so I went in the hospital, got my PICC line changed to the other arm after I had sort of drip in sort of antibiotics, yeah. I've also been diagnosed with fibromyalgia through the rheumatology. With that comes a lot as well on after my weak immune system, the systematic lupus. My joints were hurting. I was always unable, flaring up. A lot of brain fog. Not that the brain fog really caused that much of an issue to me before, because I've always known to have selective memory, which helped out in the exams. I'd like cram up everything, numbers, you name it, whatever, word for word sometimes. And then once the exam was over or I didn't need it anymore, my brain just went, you know what, I don't need that information. Poop, out it comes. And they were like, what information again? So it's kind of used to me remembering, like training my brain to remember what I needed. It's not the best at the moment. It's not like up to scratch, but because there were so many things that I never really wanted to remember anyway, and it goes out of my memory once I know I don't need it, it's never bothered me that much as it... I do notice that sometimes I end up wanting the information and I can't remember it as much as I used to. So yeah, it does get frustrating just a tad bit, but not that much. Ever since then, at the end of the last year, my partner's sort of mum also had a really bad stroke, the second one during 2019, and unfortunately it's affected her cognitive behavior, her memory, her speech, remembering things, being able to speak. She can't gather a simple word. If she does, it's like, woohoo, she's managed to remember how to say something. A lot of the time she might say yes when she means no, or no when she means yes. And then she won't remember how to switch the TV on. Most of the time she'll just sit there staring at a blank screen. Not the best with now having to sort of shield ourselves, and for her, because she's got COPD. And knowing COPD, not that I've got it, but when I was in hospital during a couple of times with the lung infections and septicemia last year, I was struggling with the breathing, and they looked into it because when they used to do the x-rays, they used to find what is medical terminology called nodules on the chest, on the X-rays. Now, these nodules are what is classified as what dots that were showing over my chest in the X-rays. These dots transfer to little sort of like either scarring or something that could be on the lungs or it could be on the chest cavity, which is in my case. But it affects the breathing. It would have been very dangerous if it was on the lungs, or in the lungs, and going towards the heart. Because it could have also been blood clots. But thankfully they had a look and it was kind of swelling. I ended up having to have biopsies and they confirmed it was near the chest cavity, on the chest cavity, and mainly the lymph nodes, and they're swollen. So I can't remember the medical terminology, which I think is sclerodermosis or something along like that, but thankfully it is classified as benign. No need for any treatment at the moment, but because it's in the lungs and it's my breathing, near the lungs and the chest, it could easily go into the lungs, could progress if I was to catch this COVID. So I had been advised from the respiratory team at the hospital to be shielding. And from the rheumatology, it does get inflamed, and there's a lot of inflammation on the around it, so it does press on the lungs. I am also on the rheumatology side because of my scleroderma and sclerosis. I have to take the autoimmune suppressant medicines, so I'm usually on one of those high risks where this COVID-19, if it gets to me, I may not be here. So they say, that's when they say in the high risk. And so not only am I, but the better half also at the end of last year inflamed more of his sort of side of the neck, and it was a quite really serious lump there. So it was quite scary from him coming in and out of hospitals, and it turned out to be a well-known lump that he had named Terry for a while. So thankfully Terry's now gone, as in by means of an operation, but he's still got this huge scar from the operation all the way down to here. They had to remove the saliva duct, so he does get thirsty, and the swelling's slightly there, but because he came out of hospital at the time of the shielding, when they told us we can't. Luckily, days after he came out and came home, we were told that we're both at high risk. We're both on medication that's potentially could sort of not help if we were to get it. So we've both been in here at home. We've managed to, with the help of obviously the GPs and other sort of NHS bodies and offices, we're now getting our medication dropped off at home. We have we're on the high risk with vulnerable people with the shopping areas, so we get our shopping done on a weekly basis. We're quite looked after. Despite all the hassle and the free, I have to shout out to the NHS, from the hospitals to the GPs to the nurses to the, you name it. We are constantly getting calls, constantly being checked on. Our consultations are being done all by phone. Even if we don't need anything, we're still having somebody somewhere, with the social workers, with the occupational therapists, the district nurses, you name it. We have people always checking on us, whether they come in with the full protection, whether they have to buy it themselves out of shortage or not. Some private sort of nurses, when they do come in, from the ones that have to visit the district, they've had to go out of their way, the companies, and be able to actually buy it for themselves because they care that much. It's not a majority, but there is the minority, because they are having to interact with people coming home, that they don't want to risk the vulnerable people. And oh my God, I just cannot thank them. We are like one big family to them, and they genuinely do it because they're in this job because they care about us, and to the fact that they risk their lives for us. And we can't thank them, and really, thank you very, very much, from somebody who is really seriously on the line. How we suffer at this moment is the fact that we can't see our parents. We've got, as much as I'm physically down more than mentally, which does affect me sometimes, the better half has the scenario where it does affect him a hell of a lot more, purely for the fact that he can't see his mum, who's just come out of hospital from a second stroke, had that effect. His dad, who's always lonely, elderly, says, "Oh, I'm self-isolating, and I don't understand how people are going out using the buses, and all that stuff." And yet he's out there himself on a daily basis, going to the shops to pick up newspaper, milk, whatever you name it. And he doesn't see himself as actually doing it, and yet he still is finding it so boring to be by himself, and there's nothing we could do about it. There's also my parents on the other side who are actually staying in, but my dad's got Alzheimer's. It doesn't help with the fact that us not being able to see him on a regular basis physically, he can't remember, his grandchildren from my brother's side. My brother, who lives up in Oxfordshire, it's a bit of a struggle for him to go down there. We can't go, even though we're in London, they're in London, but because we've got the beauty of the sort of video calling, it helps for him to remember. But there's always a time, when I have my flare-ups, some days I can't speak to them. He will end up, if I don't call them or video call them for one day, he's used to routine at the times when I call up, and he's used to it. But if I miss it, he'd be like, when I speak to him on the video, he'll be like, "You look familiar." You can read it on his face, and it takes him a while to remember that I'm his daughter, who's called Sally. So you can imagine that all the ones that are around us, he doesn't remember his grandchildren. He doesn't remember this. He doesn't remember that. He's always asking about the picture at the top every single time. "Oh, what is that picture? What story does it say? Who's in it? What's in it? Who's in it again?" And it's repeated so many times, but big hearts out. I love that conversation, and I expect it, and there's things that we send, and we share links for him to remember, things that we keep reminding each other for. And yeah, it's hard. I enjoy doing it, but it's hard not being there. And it's putting a strain on my mum, it's putting a strain on my dad for not being able to do it, and he gets bored himself, and he gets frustrated because he doesn't know why he's bored or what's going on. So yes, that's the only thing, the downside, and it's bringing us down. And one of the main reasons why I would, we love being in London, but the weather doesn't help for somebody in my scenario. When it's always cold with Reynolds and feeling it, especially in the winter time. And this country's known for rains and cold, etc. I would rather be somewhere like in a Mediterranean country and boost up the warmth and the blood circulation, for example. But we can't, because the main reason we're here is literally for our parents who are elderly and also have health issues. But if we could take them and they would if we're struggling with health reasons and struggling to walk and breathe and whatever, you can imagine how it would be for somebody who's for those who are over 70. Yeah, it's not nice. So that's the only frustrating thing of this lockdown. And I wish people who, when I look at the news and stuff like that, and the minute the sun's out, they're all sunbathing, they don't think about people who risk their lives going out for the sake of people like us, or those that do pick it up and are being a little bit selfish. It's just like I want to slap these people silly, and I'm like, okay, fine, you want to risk your life, go ahead and do it, but don't risk everybody else who is trying to move on, who's trying to save their lives, missing their loved ones, not being able, or those that are falling sick, for helping you out, risking themselves, risking their families. And there's still some of them that are dying. And I'm like, I just want to, anybody that says anything, I swear to God, if they're so lucky I'm indoors, because they would have had no pre-warning, would have just had a punch right in their face. And that's the least that I would have probably done. I could have carried on more. But anyway, on that note, I shall love you and leave you all. We will keep you posted. I've changed my name on this channel because whenever I go into hospitals, etc., I've now been having a lot more of the sort of symptoms that I'm now known as that lady with the weak immune system. I don't mind the name. I know my name is Sally. Those that do know me will call me Sally. But for those that point out and say, I'm glad I'm known for something. May not be the best thing in the entire world, but I'm known for something. I am now uploading stuff during this lockdown. Now that I get my meds at home and delivered at home, etc., I'm using this time to try and do some bit of cooking. I used to love doing that. Not that I eat a varied amount. I don't have the full appetite. I'm still on TPN. But at least I have some sort of appetite with the anti-sicknesses that I take. And yeah, the better half is the guinea pig. He's not complaining. He still eats everything. So that's a good sign, I think. I will be and have been putting it on sort of different areas. My Facebook group is still called Me and Crest. and I have been uploading that stuff onto there. So if you want to see what I've been up to, as in visually on the cooking side, I tend to post it up on there along with other areas. But please look onto Facebook and search for me and Crest. If you have any questions or want to know a little bit more about the sort of the chest or anything, absolutely anything, please send me an email, write in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, by the way, and or use the Facebook and ask away. I do remember that somebody had asked me about the the sort of indentation of the fingers and the dryness and sort of. Sorry, I just had a phone call which I don't know if I just rejected because I don't even know the number, and it's probably somebody checking on me and seeing if I'm absolutely fine again. I'll back to what somebody had asked me about all those, and they're saying you don't look like you've got it. It doesn't seem to be that bad. I have promised that I will show them, but my laptop is down at the moment, and I've got pictures that were saved on it when I had to have the operation on my fingers and how bad that it does get. And it does have its flare-up moments when it comes to the stage where the top layers of my fingers or under the nail, I will get it so badly that I've had the option of removing my finger up until where that line is, because it got that bad. My nail actually fell off as well because it got so much pus underneath it and it was coming off with the layers that it was that bad. But these pictures are on that laptop, so once it's up and running, I promise that I will do that. I haven't forgotten that. So yes, if anybody has any other questions about my esophagus issues or anything that's related to it, please do call. So not call. Well, you can call if you we can set it up and with the questions. But if you've got the questions, please do message me. Here, Facebook, you name it. So anyway, until then, I shall speak to you guys soon and keep you updated. Have fun, everybody.